let your mercy be on us as we place our trust in you. As we place our trust in you. Hi, everyone. It's so good to be with you today and to share a little bit of my journey. I believe our title is Music, Cancer, and Recovery, Body, Mind, and Spirit. And I'm just sharing this little refrain from the Psalm because that text, let your mercy be on us for we place our trust in you, is certainly an aspect, an underlying foundation of my experience and my journey with cancer. For those of you who don't know a little bit of my journey, I think I should give you some background. About 8 years ago, I was diagnosed with a indolent, which means a slow-growing form of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Never did find out for sure which one of the 75 I had. It was just that it was lymphoma. So for a long period of time, my oncologist and I were doing watch and wait, which means you go in for blood work and they look at it and say, it's not there yet, or it's not up to a certain level, whatever, and you just go back, and every 3 months you go back and find out if there's more or whatever. So, which is a little frustrating, I have to tell you. However, it's just the way that things go sometimes. Well, about 2 years ago, I had to go into the hospital for something else, and the blood work came back from the doctor saying that there was a blip in my blood work. And of course, what does that mean? I mean, literally, he said blip. It's like, okay, blip. He said, and you need to call your oncologist and tell him about this blip. So I called my oncologist and said, you know, there was something that came out rather irregular in my blood work. Should we be concerned about it? And so I walked into the office a little bit later, did the blood work, and yep, the blip meant something. So he sat me down and he said, Louis, you know, remember we talked about the fact that at some point you were going to have to start treatment because of the cancer. And he said, well, we're there. So in January of 2019, I began an 18 months so far journey with chemo. Now, I want you to know that I am not doing this alone. And I remember after finding out what the doctor said to me, I was like, when the doctor says we're going to do chemo, well, you know, for me anyway, I started whiting out. Whiting out for me is like, oh my gosh, I can't hear. It sounds like you're babbling to me. I wasn't able to hear everything that he was saying, except that I'm doing chemo. So I remember going home, lying in the bed and thinking, oh my gosh, what's going on? What am I going to do? Well, what I was going to do, first of all, is pray. And I've decided to be transparent about my journey because I was hoping that it might be helpful for others, but also I realized that I can't do this alone. I'm a chicken. So I didn't know how I was going to handle the chemo. Of course, they give you all these papers that tell you all these things. Your hair's going to fall out. Your nails turn blue. You're going to have nausea, blah, blah, blah. You're going to grow like a horn beside your head. That didn't happen. But, you know, you just catch all this stuff. Anyway, so then I started the chemo and I did 4 rounds of chemo. Thought I was doing better, but I went back into the office and the blood work showed that it was actually worse. I was having night sweats and I was losing weight. And the doctor said, I'm sorry, but it didn't work. We thought you had this kind of non-Hodgkin's, but we believe now that you have, are you ready for this? Waldenstrom's macroglobulinemia. Now you say that 6 times real fast. It took me 6 months to learn the words. So he said we're going to have to do another form of treatment. So fortunately, this time it was a pill instead of having an infusion. So I just took a pill every day, and there were side effects, of course, but I also began to notice that I was less fatigued and the night sweats were becoming less. And I was able to go to St. Louis and sing with the St. Louis Jesuits in the fall. The numbers were dropping and it looked hopeful that I would be in remission. Until I went in December, I noticed I was starting to get fatigued quicker and the night sweats were becoming more frequent. and the numbers were starting to go up. So when I went into the office, he sat me down. Whenever I get a sit down, if you ever get a sit down from a doctor, we all know what that's like. He said, we're going to have to up the game here. So now we were talking about 3 different kinds of treatment. This would be the 3rd one. And this was going to be a little more drastic. The side effects were going to be worse. And I would probably have to go into the hospital for the treatments because it was 2 different kinds of chemo that I was going to have. Maybe not, but anyway. So I have to tell you that after hearing that I was going to have to do yet another round, 6 months worth of treatment, I was not a happy camper. In fact, I kind of started feeling a little, sorry for myself and kind of got into a blue funk. And while I know people were praying for me, and again, I had put things on Facebook, as you probably have seen, I was feeling pretty down and asking God, so like, what's going on? Like, where are you? I'm trying to be like a good person and stuff, and what's happening here? Why am I experiencing this? And as a composer, I had written that first piece, Lord, Let Your Mercy, a long time ago, but I felt that I needed to write. And when so I started my treatment in January, and so I had my first round in January. I went to the LA Congress. I felt pretty nasty, to be honest with you, folks. That was there. I was feeling pretty nasty. February, I went in and I started feeling even nastier. I asked the doctor, so doctor, do people die from Waldenstrom's and macroglobulinemia? If you've ever had a point blank question, I'm kind of a blunt guy, so I don't like beat around the bush. His eyes kind of got a little big, and he started him-hauling around. I said, you don't have to give me the whole book. Just give me a chapter. What's going to happen with all of this? So he told me that what I have is not curable. Now, I'm not dying, so I want people to get the impression, but all they're doing with the treatment, he said, all we're doing with the treatment is pushing back the numbers so that you have some quality of life. Eventually, the numbers will start going back up and we'll probably have to do more treatment. So I had to wrap my brain around that. I guess I was hoping for a treatment that would cure me and I would be in remission, but that's not going to happen. So this song, Hidden God, sort of sums up where I was at that time. And let me give you a little play of this. Hidden God, silent God, help me find you in my life. Hidden God, silent God, help me find you in my heart. So that's just a refrain of the song, but I think it really speaks of where I was. So like, what am I doing with my life? Where am I going with my life? And where are you in my heart, God? What kind of a space have I made for you? Have I made a space at all? So the February treatment really made me start thinking about a lot of things and reprioritizing my life. I was like, what really matters in the end? Does stuff matter? I mean, honestly, for me, do people matter? Does God matter? Does the afterlife matter? And where are you, God? And where am I at in my heart? So I was asking these questions. Who are you, God, and what am I? And boy, is that a dangerous way to pray, because then you start finding out all this stuff. Good stuff and not so good stuff. Anyway, I felt that this was a turning point for me in terms of accepting where I am, who I am, and where I want to go. And brothers and sisters, let me tell you, friends of NPM, thank you for the prayers, and when you pray, they work, because while that was a dark period, I had to walk through that, and I could not walk through it without the love and the support of the community that was supporting me. So the prayers helped Having my back helped. Chocolate chip cookies that were being sent helped. I had put on Facebook about, chocolate chip cookies. It was my way of treating myself after each of the treatments once the nausea was gone, because I needed to do something to celebrate. I got through this one, I got through that one. And I got a couple prayer shawls, and those prayer shawls meant a lot, because I would wrap myself around, and still do, wrap myself around with those prayers. That is like a shield to help me, and a comfort to help me to know I am not alone. And so I bring those, there's a particular one that I got from Raimi, who sent that to me so that I would be able to continue to do the treatment and know that I had prayer. People were praying for me. And so I just wanted you to know, I know I'm moving around here, sorry, but I just want to get another song ready. So now I am gone through 5 treatments, and the treatments are working. The numbers are going down, thank you, Lord. I have more energy. The night sweats, you think, well, what's the night sweats all about? Well, those are real strong indications of how active the chemo or the cancer is. And I'm beginning to be able to work almost like full days now without being exhausted. So when you see this, I will be in the hospital on this Thursday, today, which you're seeing it, doing my final treatment. I have 2 days of worth in there, and I will be done with that the 6 rounds of treatment. And you can bet your boots I'm going to celebrate, and I'll let everybody know on Facebook that I'm done with it as well. So what does the future look like? Well, I'll have a rest from the chemo. I have to go in for a bone marrow biopsy, which is not pleasant, but it's necessary to find out how much cancer is still going on in my bone marrow. And then the doctor will decide whether or not I need more treatment or do I get a rest. So, but I wanted to share this with you because I think this is just not my story. This is a story of many, many of us, whether it's cancer or any kind of illness. I want us to know that the music helps us. As a composer, it helps me write. It helps me to get through and walk through some of the stuff that's going on inside my spirit, and being able to get it out to maybe help somebody else. To talk about this also helps other people to know that they are not alone, and they can too know that they have strength in prayer, strength in this community, strength in one another, and strength in our God who loves us, who is merciful and compassionate. So I want to share this little song before we go. God, in your mercy, be our strength. God, in compassion, be our hope. May we be mercy, may we be peace. Help us to be your gentle love. So this is my prayer for all of us, that we reflect on God, who is merciful, who is our strength, our compassion, and our hope. And whatever it is that we're experiencing in our life, that we can be mercy and be peace and love for one another. And while the chemo has taken my voice away, and maybe I have no hair, my mind is kind of gone sometimes, the hope is that I rely on you, and I thank you so, so much for walking that journey with me and allowing me to share that journey so that it will be something for others. May we pray for one another, and may we know that those prayers go all over. May we be strength for one another because we need each other. And may the music that we share know that it's healing, know that it heals our hearts, our minds, and our spirits. Thank you for allowing me to share these little bits of information, and may God bless you all.